The Plague is a passionate book. Camus is, this isn't a clinical or emotionless text, but I think it's important to maybe articulate where the passion is going, and it's going towards fighting injustice. The kind of passion, so, a couple of passages ago I read this bit about it being a joy to be able to relax at last and loosen nerves and muscles that were braced for the struggle. Yeah, it's all about struggle. And other kinds of passionate feeling are not in conditions of confronting plague, are not as important, it seems, for Camus. And yet, we hear him talk about love and his experience of love with his mother, and yet we hear about how important the moment of friendship and connection is with Ryu, or with Teru, and Teru telling him, look, there's got to be room for things other than the fight. And so now as we get to these last few passages in the book that I'm going to talk about, we hear him finally talking about love, I think in a more clear and direct way. As he's watching the experience of lovers who have been separated, people who have been physically separated by the plague coming together, he writes, "They knew now that if there is one thing one can always yearn for and sometimes attain, it is human love. But for those others who aspired beyond and above the human individual towards something they could not even imagine, there had been no answer. Teru might seem to have won through to that hardly come-by peace of which he used to speak, but he had found it only in death, too late to turn it to account. If others, however, Ryu could see them in the doorways of houses, passionately embracing and gazing hungrily at one another in the failing sunset glow, had got what they wanted, this was because they had asked for the one thing that depended on them solely. And as he turned the corner of the street where Grand and Cotard lived, Ryu was thinking it was only right that those whose desires are limited to man and his humble yet formidable love should enter, if only now and then, into their reward." So, love for Camus, it sounds like, is a necessary condition for life. It's not a sufficient condition, or it's one that he says we could set our sights on love. We should, and understand that it will always be something that's experienced in a transitory way. And also, love here tends to get focused on the needs of the individual, and I feel sad about that. I can't help but feel that love is an experience that is a part of the struggle. The time in the book spent yearning for an end to the separation, of course, is much greater than the time spent actually experiencing love. Love and connection keeps us going. The separation itself, the inability to experience it, or the ways in which we're kept from it, is the story of the plague in one sense. I'm going to conclude here with not the last paragraphs of the book, but the two before the last paragraph of the book, where I think the novel really summarizes Camus' position clearly for us. "And it was in the midst of shouts rolling against the terrace wall in massive waves that waxed in volume and duration, while cataracts of colored fire fell thicker through the darkness, that Dr. Ryu resolved to compile this chronicle, so that he should not be one of those who hold their peace, but should bear witness in favor of those plague-stricken people, so that some memorial of the injustice and outrage done them might endure. And to state quite simply what we learn in times of pestilence, that there are more things to admire in men than to despise. Nonetheless, he knew that the tale he had to tell could not be one of a final victory. It could be only the record of what had to be done, and what assuredly would have to be done again in the never-ending fight against terror and its relentless onslaughts, despite their personal afflictions, by all who, while unable to be saints, but refusing to bow down to pestilences, strive their utmost to be healers. We can choose not to see the pestilence. We can be comfortable with its existence. We can and are victims of the pestilence. We can choose to seek peace through service to others. We can choose to cure and not know. So this is where we end. The question I'm left with is how to be a healer in this time. How to allow healing in my own life, I think. How to be an innocent murderer. How to be happy and not forget. And not forget the plague. Thank you so much for staying with me through this, for providing companionship. I'm so grateful to you. A special shout out here at the end to my son Daniel, who is not standing here right now but has been operating the camera for me. And I'll ask too that if this has been a meaningful experience for you, consider supporting the work of the Jung Center. It's easy to do. You can go to our website, junghouston.org. If you are able to make some small donation, we would greatly appreciate it, whatever is within your means and would be meaningful for you now. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you again soon, whether it's on a computer screen or when we can breathe together again.